Is anybody else seeing the video freeze frame?
Oh, hello. There we go. Hey, welcome to the Puzzle Hack, the first Flutter Puzzle Hack live stream. We're back again. Scott, are you talking? Can you hear me?
Hey, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Yes?
Wave if you can. Okay. I am getting a little frustrated with StreamYard right now. It keeps changing my audio, and I cannot hear you.
Right.
Let me see what I can do with this here quickly.
Why don't we carry on?
Yeah.
And we'll go.
Why don't we do that? And okay.
So I'm just gonna do a couple of things here, and Scott, you carry on figuring out your stuff. Right.
Sounds good. Yeah. And I can hear Simon through another call. That's how I can hear him now.
Yes. Sadly, some other people are hearing us double. So, we'll work things out. Technical difficulties aside, welcome back. And we're going to crack on. So I have a couple of little slides I want to bring up here just to cover some of the basics that we do each stream. I've already messing things up. All right. Well, we're going to basically be nice, be kind. We have some rules, and if you start spamming, that's it. We're going to block you. Start being unkind, we're going to block you. Be nice, in other words. And we will be answering your questions later on the stream. We're going to do the first half of the stream is going to be on the Flutter Puzzle Hack, and the second half is going to be general Q&A. And during all of this, please make sure that you put Q in front of your questions, and we can find them in the chat later on when we go back through it. Right now, we'll just introduce our first guest, Kelvin. Welcome to the stream. You are muted. Oh, there we go.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelvin Boateng. I am a product marketing manager here at Flutter, and I have been helping to put together the Flutter Puzzle Hack over the last couple of months, and I'm so excited. We've seen over 3,000 participants so far, and super excited to see that number continue to grow. It grows by, I think, a few hundred every day, so more than seeing that number grow, I'm really excited to see what kind of submissions that come in. But before we kind of get into all of the nitty gritty about, the slide puzzle and all that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about what the puzzle hack is all about. So the idea for the puzzle hack kind of came after we did the Flutter Apprentice giveaway, in which for 3 months we asked anyone interested in Flutter to essentially opt in to reading about Flutter through Flutter Apprentice, a book that the Ray Wenderlich tutorial series team put together. And we saw an amazing response to that. About 45,000 developers, all told, actually opted in and read Flutter Apprentice. And so we thought, well, what better way to show off the skills you've learned than by asking you to build something, and to build something fun to play and build something that you could kind of share with your friends and family and kind of experience together, and customize to be your own. So that's kind of where the puzzle hack came in. And the other side of the puzzle hack, I guess, is it's all about using Flutter's visual capabilities to kind of reimagine a somewhat basic experience. And using your creativity and kind of everything, pulling all of that together to create something that like no one else and no other platform / framework could really bring together. So with all of that being said, I'm really excited to actually be able to have Bart, the VGV developer who actually built the sample puzzle. He's going to talk today all about how he built the sample, and he's going to give you some tips about how to actually build your own sample and what you can do about that. So I'm excited to introduce Bart.
Hey Bart, welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for the introduction, Kelvin. I'm Bart. I'm a developer who helped to develop the slide puzzle, and excited to show you how it's built and how you can contribute to your own puzzle submission.
If you've got any questions throughout the stream, guys, for Bart or for Kelvin, make sure that they go into the chat queue as requested. I actually have a question right now. Is there an end to when people can sign up for the challenge? Like, have they got a couple of weeks, or can they sign up until the end date? Is there?
Yeah, 100%. You can sign up until the very last day. So the submissions are open until February 28th. You can find out on, I believe, flutterhack.devpost.com. So you could go and register / submit all the way up until, I believe it's like 3 p.m. on February 28th. So make sure you do that if you want your project to be eligible for. We have, I think, over $50,000 worth of prizes, including MacBooks and a whole lot of Flutter swag, cash prizes as well. So plenty of incentive to do so.
So this link is on the screen, and it's also in the description. So if you come in here later, you can find it down below. All right. So Bart, the stage is yours, and we'll see you guys afterwards. Go on. Are you back, Scott? We can hear you.
I am back. I was going to say two things. Number one, I think this is the longest I've kept my mouth shut on stream ever. And second, as Simon said, be decent to each other, all that happiness, no abuse. And the one thing that you didn't point out, if you are abusive enough to get yourself banned here, we're going to make sure to talk to everybody who runs every other Slack and Discord and everything and make sure you're banned everywhere. So
be nice. All right.
Yes.
Bart, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So, hi, I'm Bart. I'm an engineer behind this slide puzzle. I'm an engineer at Very Good Ventures, and I'm going to talk you and show you how you can build your own slide puzzle submission based on the sample that we have prepared. And first, let's talk about the architecture of slide puzzle. So there's a lot of different options for state management, such as provider, Gerrit, or block. And we at VGV mostly use block. So we've decided to use block when creating this sample as well. So the architecture of the app is layered using blocks, and they handle everything from the game logic to theming. And if you're not familiar with how block works, you basically need to send an event to a block, and in response, the state will be emitted. A new state will be emitted. And here are some events that you can use in the puzzle sample to help speed up the process of creating your submission. So you can shuffle or reset the puzzle by sending a puzzle reset event. You can move a puzzle tile by sending a tile tapped event. If you decide to include a timer, which tracks how much time has passed since the beginning of solving the puzzle, you can use timer started or stopped events for that. Similarly, for the countdown, which just tracks how much time before the beginning of the puzzle. And then you can also toggle audio of the puzzle with audio toggled event, or you can change the current theme with theme changed event. So you don't have to implement the whole puzzle game logic yourself. These blocks are here, and events are here to help you if you find them useful in your slide puzzle submission. And of course, you may use them, you may modify them, but you can also create your own logic. And in the sample, you will find two themes, where the first one on the left is the simple theme, and on the right, you can see a Dashatar theme. And you can borrow as much as you need from the code base, or you can start from scratch. And when you start from scratch, you will need to create your theme by extending a puzzle theme class, which is a base class for all themes that are currently in the sample. So puzzle theme is a class that defines the name of your theme, or for example, options such as the background color or the button color, and many more. And you can here's in the code snippet, you can see how your theme extends the puzzle theme, and it implements a variety of options. Important property of a theme is that each theme has a puzzle layout delegate, which computes a layout of this theme. And you can reuse the same layout delegates that we have already created from sample and Dashatar themes. For example, if you decide to create a puzzle with the same layout as Dashatar, but just decide to replace dash images with your favorite pictures, you can do that by using the same layout delegate as Dashatar, but just replacing the images in the theme options. But if you want to go one step further and customize your layout delegate, and then you need to create your own puzzle layout delegate and provide that a new instance of this delegate to a property of your theme, which you can see in the code snippet here. And the puzzle layout is implemented for desktop, mobile, and tablet screen size. So when you create your own layout delegate, you will need to implement several sections of the puzzle. And here you can see 3 main sections which are on the desktop layout. So the start section on the desktop layout is always going to be on the left of the screen. The board section is in the middle of the screen, and the end section is on the right of the screen. And this is slightly different for tablet and mobile layouts. So when you implement the start section of layout delegate, it will appear at the top of the puzzle. The board section will appear in the middle of the puzzle, and the end section will appear at the bottom of the puzzle. And so when you create your layout delegate, you have to choose from a range of widget builders. And the 3 that I just discussed, so start section, board section, end section, they are corresponding builders in the layout delegate. And this is a start section builder, a board builder, and end section builder. And there are also other builders. For example, if you want to specify how to build a single tile of the puzzle board, you will need to use a tile builder. If you want to specify how to build a white space or an empty tile of the puzzle, like a blank tile, you will need to use a white space tile builder. And if you decide to change your background, you will use the background builder. And here in the code snippet, you can see how you can implement the background. So this is a code snippet from the Dashatar, and it receives the current state of the puzzle as an argument. And what it prints or renders is the Dashatar theme picker on a large layout. A large layout is basically desktop layout in this case. So in the end, when your theme is ready, you can add it to the puzzle page, which is a page containing all themes of the slide puzzle. Currently, it's just simple and Dashatar, but you can just append, add a new theme to the initial themes property of theme block. And by now, your theme should be available from the menu, and you should be able to explore that in the app. So let's move to animations. And if you want to animate your puzzle, there are multiple ways you can do that. And I want to share with you how we implemented some of the animations in the sample. So when using implicit animations, you don't need to write the whole animation yourself. As when you set a new value on a widget property, Flutter takes care of animating that property from the current value to a new value that you have just set. So this is a very straightforward and easy to use solution for animations. And Flutter offers multiple implicitly animated widgets that you can choose from. For example, there is an animated scale, which animates the scale of the widget, or animated opacity, which will animate the opacity of the widget when the opacity property changes. There is animated default text style, which will animate the text style of the send-down text widgets, or animated align. And let's see that in practice, how we use it in the Dashatar theme. So as an example here, take a look at the puzzle tile class. So here we have implemented a movement of the puzzle tile. So whenever a tile is tapped, what actually happens, its current position is going to be updated, and is going to be transitioned over the given movement duration, thanks to this implicitly animated align widget. So how this works is the current position of the tile will change, and this will update the alignment property of animated align, forcing the whole widget to animate implicitly. And this is how we use implicitly animated widgets in the app. For example, here, or on the right, you can see that animation. With explicit animations, this is slightly more advanced. You need to use an animation controller, and these animations are controlled. They need to be started and stopped explicitly. And for example, you may use a forward and reverse function on the animation controller to move the animation. And let's see that in practice. So as an example, here we have a scale animation, like a scale effect, when you hover over a puzzle tile. And how it's done is we create a controller, animation controller, with some duration. And then based on this controller, we can define the scale animation here. We can define a scale animation, which is a tween. A tween is basically a linear interpolation between two values. So in this case, we want the initial scale of the puzzle tile to be 1. And when the user hovers over the tile, we want the scale to be equal to 0.94. So what we do here is we just initialize the controller and initialize the animation. We don't start and stop it yet. And we also define that we want this animation to be non-linear. It's going to be a curved animation with this curve provided in the parameter. And when we go to the next slide, you can see that there is a mouse region, and this is when we are using the controller to animate the scale. So when your mouse or your pointer enters the region, it will forward the animation controller or reverse the animation controller in case it exits the region. And if you remember from the previous slide, the scale animation is dependent on this controller. So the scale transition widget here is going to be updated with the scale, and the icon button, as you can see on the video on the right, is going to have this scale effect. And usually explicit animations are used for repeated animations. So for example, if you want to repeat animations for some amount of time, or for example, when multiple widgets are animated in some sequence, which is the case for staggered animations. which are also used in the sample. And staggered animations are sequential or overlapping animations, which are driven by a single animation controller. And each of those animations is adjusted with interval to delay the animation in time, in the whole time of the animation. And by using tween, you can define the range of values of a certain animation. And so here, in this example, this is the shared dialog of the Dashatar theme. And this class, this is not a widget. This is a class that holds all of the values, or this holds values of all animations for the dialog. And it basically initializes all values for animations. And then later, this class will be used for in the dialog itself. But as you can see here, the first animation, which is score opacity, is defined to have values between 0 and 1 when the animation is happening, and the offset of social buttons changes from this offset to the offset of value 0. And as we want our animations to be sequential or overlapping, we can define this curve using curved animation. And what this means is that the first animation is going to happen between 0 and 0.6. And what it means is that, for example, when your animation takes 10 seconds, when your animation is 10 seconds long, then the first score opacity animation is going to take the 6 seconds of the animation. And then the offset animation is going to start after 4 seconds elapsed, right? Till the end of the animation. So these animations are going to overlap, as you can see in the timeline here on the left. So having that class, we can move to creating a custom builder, which is like a utility for us, which is a wrapper around animated builder here, and it exposes all of those animations that we have just defined previously as the third argument here. So you can see that the builder, animated builder, by default, it has 2 parameters, the context and the child. And what we want to have is a custom animated builder, which also exposes the animation, all the animation properties here, which is going to be very helpful in the next step, in the third step, where this is the build method of the actual dialog. So now what we can do is we can put this animated builder here in the build method, and we will receive the animation as the third argument. And then based on the animation, we can create multiple widgets and just pass the animation properties to all of these widgets. For example, score opacity animation is going to change the opacity of the Dashatar score, and the social buttons offset is going to be the position of the slide transition in this case. So what is the effect of such animation? So it's something like this. When the dialog appears, you can see multiple widgets appear sequentially with some delay. And I think this is like a clean and like an elegant way to achieve staggered animations in Flutter. So the next slide. So the puzzle was built for 3 screen sizes, small, medium, and large, which is supposed to be a mobile, tablet, and desktop layouts. And we have created some utilities for you to help with responsive layouts. So the first utility is responsive layout builder, which basically is a wrapper around a layout builder widget, Flutter widget, which allows you to specify a different widget based on the screen size. So for example, here, a small widget will be rendered on a small layout, which is mobile. A medium widget will be rendered on a medium layout, and the large widget on the large layout. And similarly, you can use responsive gap widget, which defines a different gap or a padding on different screen size. And you may also want to speed up loading your assets in the app to optimize like the overall performance during the game. And in the sample, this is done using the precache image function for image assets and HTTP GET for audio assets. And HTTP GET basically relies on the browser caching mechanism. And we are using that functions when the app is loading. So whenever you go to the Dashatar theme and start the game, all of the assets should have already been downloaded. So it should be a smooth experience when you're starting the game. So the slide puzzle was also built with accessibility in mind, and you may interact with the puzzle using a keyboard or a screen reader. And if you are using the sample, actually you don't have to implement keyboard interactions, as it's already implemented using raw keyboard listener. But if you want to make your version accessible with screen readers, you need to consider adding semantic labels and tooltips to improve the accessibility. So here in the code snippet, you can see how you can add a semantic label for an image, or how you can create a tooltip which displays some message over a button or some other action. And that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I guess I wish you happy coding with your own slide puzzle.
Thank you very much. Let's get everyone back on. There we go. That is awesome. I'm going to bring it up on stream. Let's see if we can do this. Actually, someone was saying, where can they get the code from? So let me get you guys.
Actually, we just put that link in YouTube.
There you go. He's ahead.
Yeah, I'm ahead of you. No, and sorry about that, folks. The first link that went up was to the directory, and that allows you to play the puzzle. But if you want the source code, you have to go to the HTML page.
Where is it?
But it's the last thing that Flutter community said in YouTube. So anyway, just out of curiosity, since people are going to be trying to do this in their off time, as if a Flutter developer has off time these days, Bart, about how long did that take you?
It actually took about like 1.5 months to develop the whole thing, but I think it's mostly because we have tried very hard to make the architecture look nicely and be very like accessible for users to extend, like add a new theme.
Wait, you mean you had it running in like 45 minutes and then spent a month refactoring? That sounds like a normal day at work.
No, it was started from scratch.
Should we have a go? Let's try it. I don't. Should we give it a go? This is going to be
Why
bad.
are you
Anyway,
not doing Dash?
should we do Dash?
You need to
Alright.
be doing Dash.
Okay.
Come on.
Oops.
This is hump day.
Why is it not? Right. Anyway, so come on, guys.
It's a bit
questions.
harder.
Get the
I can't
questions
click
in.
on it.
No. I'm saying get your questions in. Let's put the queue in the chat, and I'm sure Scott's going to go back through. Have you got any questions about how you enter the challenge? What to do? I mean, you've had the slides now, so we can kind of like understand a bit more about the code base and how you can update the puzzle to do what you want. the whole thing. To
Well,
what you want
while
to
I'm
do.
digging up numbers, let's see if Simon's half as good at playing this game as he would be at coding it.
I don't know.
I would bet no. What do you think, Kelvin?
This
Uh,
is not gonna.
I haven't seen Simon actually beat this yet, so I'm gonna go with no.
Oh, okay.
Hey, should we have only numbers, or can anything be used instead of numbers? Well, we're using a Dashitar right now. You can use anything. As far as I know, it doesn't have to be Flutter themed, does it, Kelvin?
No, it doesn't have to be Flutter themed at all. It could be whatever theme you want it to be. So
Let's see here. Not a question, but always important to have. Right, Julia? Let's see here. My Spanish is not up to that, unfortunately. Let's see here. Lots of discussion.
That's good.
Let's see.
I haven't solved this Dashotar yet, to be honest.
So
I only know of one person who has.
Oh,
you know, we just ruined our run. Oh goodness, what was I just thinking there?
Go on, you can do it, Scott. Get those brain cells going.
You know, we can't go a single time without showing Ruben's comment there, because let me see here. Is block a state management technique?
I think there's people on the conversation that definitely say yes.
Yeah, quite possibly. The guy who wrote it, Felix, is here in the chat. Maybe one of these days we can get him to come on the stream and talk about that. But Bart, I think you know Felix, don't you? Would you say
Yeah,
it's a state management technique?
I do. I feel that Felix would say that this is a state management technique.
I will get that down. Hang on a second.
Simon, you're getting close.
I think it's an illusion.
Yep,
Whenever I
definitely
do, I'm
an
going to mess
illusion.
up the center. So like
Oh well, that's close.
close, but not close enough.
Yep, staggered animations. There are some YouTube videos on it that are really good. It will allow you to do things such as move the container, change its shape, send it across diagonally. You can put different curves on it, different acceleration, all kinds of crazy things. It's definitely look up staggered animations. You can have a lot of fun with those, really. How creative can we get? Kelvin, that sounds like one for you.
You can, as creative as you are, essentially. We want to see what you kind of come up with. We don't want to put so these projects are literally just starting blocks, and to make sure that even if you're not a Flutter developer and you're learning Flutter for the first time, that you can get started really, really quickly. But you can take it as far and as kind of in any direction that you want to. So don't limit yourself to Flutter theming or squares or anything like that.
This one's for Bart, and in all fairness, just to mention again that a big part of the reason Bart spent so much time on this is that he wanted to make sure that he wrote it in a way people could understand. So the beginners could understand, that is. Bart, how long have you been using Flutter?
So actually, I've been familiar with mobile development for about 3 or 4 years, and I've been working with React Native, which is kind of similar in a sense. But with Flutter, I've been working since February, so it's almost a year now. Yeah, I feel great working in Flutter so far.
Yep. And you've been using Flutter about a year, and you're working professionally every day in Flutter now, right?
Yeah, from February. Yeah.
Very cool. So, can we do this if we're a beginner? I don't see why
Yeah.
not. Sure.
Go for it, please.
Yeah. You can start by exploring the simple theme, which is a lot simpler, I would say. The implementation is not that complex.
Simple challenge, yeah.
See, now
does
a
mean-
lot of the very well-known people in Flutter are probably disqualified from getting that MacBook, so your chances might be better than you think. You're not going to be competing with the top names in Flutter. It's we're kind of like not allowed. Let's see here. I think Simon would agree with you.
What's that? It's difficult. Is that what it says?
Yep.
It is
And
difficult,
actually, somebody's giving you a tip here. You can move more than a tile in a single click.
Yeah. I know.
Or you can use a
That's
keyboard.
the tone that's what I hear out of him every time I point out he's missing a comma when we're working on a piece of code. Yeah. Is it okay to do things that not an image or a sorted number?
Yes, 100%. Please do it. I'd love to see
I
what
mean,
the
the only
idea
other
is.
thing I can think of is text. Maybe write out a story.
Who knows?
That could be
I'm excited.
interesting.
I'm excited. I wanna know.
By the way, I'm not sure if this is David or who this is that's rubbing your face in it, Simon. But
Okay.
you see this over here?
I can't. I'm not looking at anything here. Hang on. I'm so close.
A couple people on the team have already solved it.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Oh gosh, Simon.
Ian, the platform on this is aimed at web primarily, I believe.
Yes, that is true. So primarily we're targeting the web with this project, but there is a prize actually for projects that also work on mobile devices and on desktop in addition to in addition to the web.
So, hey, Dom. Somebody else we've got to get here on the show again. It's good to see you. Is there an initial alignment that cannot be solved? I don't believe any of these can't be solved. It just takes the right number of years of clicking the way Simon's clicking right now.
I mean, there is
Sooner or
a
later, he's got to get back to real work.
there is a condition that we are using to check when we are shuffling the puzzle for the first time. We are checking if the puzzle is actually solvable first.
Oh crap!
nice.
That's the top. Oh no.
Oh, Simon.
That's not what I wanted. That's
Oh, here's an interesting one. Now, you know what? I almost shouldn't have put this up there, Isis. But you did put it in YouTube. So you should have kept that one to yourself. You might have won. Right off the bat. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, a custom one where the user uploads their own image.
That would be
That's a good idea.
really cool. That would be really cool.
Is it too difficult for beginners to start with? Actually, once you get into it and get used to reading that a little bit, you'd be surprised at how simple it is. Most of the difficult stuff is handled for you by what's called intrinsic animations. So you just call the animation and it does its thing. You don't actually have to build it yourself. And yeah, I mean, anytime you look at something in Flutter that is not familiar, it can seem a little bit difficult. But crawl around in the code for about an hour, hour and a half, and all of a sudden a lot of things will start to make more sense. Oh no!
Getting
Craig,
close.
welcome back. Normally you're the one who's getting your face covered on the stream, Craig. Can it use provider instead of block? Absolutely. You know what? You don't even have to use a package. So if you really want to understand how Flutter works a bit better, try looking into something called Find Ancestors, but particularly Find Ancestors state of type. And if if you have a state object at the top of the tree that contains instances of your models, you can fetch them that way. Some other people don't like to use state management packages. They like to use animated builders as the being triggered on change. And you could also use value notifiers. So let's see. Can we add auth for making it multiplayer? Yes,
I would
and I
like to
can
see.
see the aggravation with that.
You could imagine if you could see the other player fixing the puzzle as you're doing it, right? So there's always like a.
No, you watch one square go back
if
and
you
forth, back and
yeah.
forth. As
No.
two
If
people
you
are
could
fighting.
calculate how close they are to completion, you could like speed up some music.
There you go.
Yeah, it could be a race to the finish.
So many ideas.
There you go.
Nice.
Make it like a tick.
Certainly better for. No, I was trying to get a better view on the stream. Never mind.
Ah. Actually, Ali, Simon is living proof it's easier to build it than it is to solve it.
Right, I wasn't even paying attention. Come on. We can do this. We can do this. Come on, team.
He says, if I can't
team.
even solve the puzzle, would I try to complete on the challenge? I feel too dumb and frustrated. You know what? Simon's sitting here on a stream that's going to be viewed by thousands of people. How do you think he feels right now?
Fine. Thanks for asking.
How much can we twist the idea of a slide puzzle game? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that one, Ian.
Like how far they can push it away from being a slide puzzle, right?
Ideally, at the end of the day, it's still a slide puzzle. So no like word searches or jigsaw puzzles or anything like that. As long as it is a slide puzzle, the underlying logic is generally the same, follows the same rules. Your project will be eligible.
Let's see here. Simon, Dom's being mean to you again. He wants you to solve it in 1,024 moves. Hey, there you go.
And I get to share on Twitter.
Hey, Dom, did you count those? Was it 1,025?
I think it was 900 something.
It's less than 1,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it
Incredible.
did count them. Gotcha. Let's see here. Can we change
does
the
it actually
logic to make it more challenging?
I think
Not sure
yeah,
how
that could.
would be done.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting as long as it's it comes down to like how fun it is to play and how fun it is to look at. I think at the end of the day, so I think that's what we're kind of looking for. And yes,
And, yep. Not only is it available, where did it go?
So don't forget we are going to be we'll be
Let me see.
answering your general Flutter questions, so get them in the chat.
I just had to adjust a link here. Let me make sure that it works before we go putting it up on the stream. Nope.
There we go. Let's tweet that out.
And here you go, Julian.
I should have just like edited the message so it's like live on stream. I can believe this live on stream. Right. That was. It would have been really bad if I couldn't get it solved, but I did. So that's okay.
you did. That's the beauty of the game.
Okay, and here we go with Another one of those questions that we get all the time: SEO for web. The first thing to know about SEO for web, okay, really the very first thing to remember, when you ask that question, it makes it pretty clear that you're thinking that that Flutter is going to be the whole web page or the whole website, and you need to do SEO for it. Flutter is best used as a web app. Okay, it's not really meant to be a whole website.
I tell you,
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I mean, I can save 50% and get double miles if I buy 3-day-old sushi. It doesn't mean I'm going to do it. And it doesn't mean it's a good idea.
I tell
Okay,
you what I
yes,
did
you
do.
could.
I
But
tell you what I did do the other day. You can just Dart works with Dart HTML package, so you can just go do a HTML, CSS, and Dart website instead of JavaScript, right? So you wouldn't be taking advantage of Flutter's widget system, but you could still build a website and dynamically load JSON and do all that kind of fun stuff and images and all sorts. So yeah, there's room.
there you go.
Auto sell.
Sure.
There you go. I'll tell you what, though. No, it's in all seriousness, that would be an impressive piece of logic to write.
Yeah, there is
An impressive piece of problem-solving logic, and I think that might score you some good points.
Doesn't that come under the traveling salesman problem? That's like really difficult.
Yeah, that's
Like it's like chess, right? You get the infinite puzzle issues.
I'm still digging up some more questions here. There's a lot of conversation in YouTube, so I'll tell you what, Simon, why don't you explain the traveling salesman problem, which is actually a graph problem,
don't.
isn't it?
Don't. It's been
Come
it's been
on.
decades since I even looked at that. I literally just go Google Wikipedia and read the Wikipedia page.
It's a graph problem from your nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, you could do it. It's that type of problem. I'm not sure if it is that problem specifically, but I don't think A-star algorithms would even. You could probably do an A-star, like an A-star algorithm to fix it as well, to solve it as well, actually.
So, Kelvin,
Yeah.
using the sample as a start, make changes and add different stuff, and then resubmit it.
100%.
I mean, yep, it's perfectly fine.
literally
The
what it's there
sample
for.
code is a starter. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
But make sure you actually change some stuff more than, like
I mean,
the colors.
exactly. I mean, you're not going to have a good chance of winning if it's, it's just exactly the same as the sample project. It's like zero. You haven't got anything out of that, right? So
So I'll tell you what, Julia has a good idea here. Hints would be good. But, of course, Dom has to try and come over top of everybody because AutoSolve would be dope.
oh, I've just got to follow this up with where is it? Craig's message here. There you go. So least constrained and backtracking algorithms, inspiration from Sudoku solvers. So yeah, he's already on the way to doing his own implementation right now.
Oh, my. Somebody brought up testing. VGV is going to love you, Danny. They're just going to love you. What is the puzzle challenge story? There's a story, Kelvin?
I don't believe so.
I think maybe it's what is the part. If you missed the beginning of the stream, go back to the beginning of the stream. We talked about why it is.
True.
And I'll just throw this up on this upstream. There's a sign up. There's a link in the description, and you have a chance to win over one of $50,000 worth of prizes. So go sign up at the website below.
Now, I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this, Julia. Okay. Yes, you have to be able to solve the puzzle 100%. No, we get it. Actually, I'm not sure test coverage, is that even part of the judging criteria, Kelvin?
It's not in the rules, and I don't think it's something that we considered a ton. Again, we're really looking at, is it playable? Is it winnable? and is it like how fun is it to actually
Yeah.
interact with
How
the project,
creative
you
is
know?
someone being with the challenge?
Right. So as long as it works and a user can get from, jumbled slide puzzle to finished product, there's a, you know, we're not trying to dig super deep into the logic of these things.
Have you guys heard of magic calculator apps where you can enter into basically say I enter a number, you just keep asking people for like dates or foot size or whatever it is, and you press equals at the end and it's their telephone number or something, and they're like, oh my god, how did you do that? And it's a fake calculator. They think it's a calculator. It's a fake calculator that always shows a chosen number at the very end. It doesn't add up to that at all, the numbers that they chose. I kind of can see someone like doing something where you click on certain spots and it like jumbles it, and it's jumbled in such a way that you can click in a certain pattern to solve it. Does that kind of make sense?
So, okay.
Always
And
solved
I
with
think
7 moves.
we just covered that one. But another thing, I mean, testing is a best practice, which leads us over here to making sure the sample is an example of best practices, right, Dom? I'm sorry.
So
sorry, Bart.
yeah, of course. So this
talking.
example, this sample is actually how we develop most of our apps, but it's a bit more simple because there is no, for example, there is no external API layer. There's just a block and the UI layer in this case. But yeah, all the tests are written like in the same way that we are writing in production apps, and blocks are in the same way, and UI, yeah, also the same.
Nice.
Does it need to be in a public GitHub? I suppose the other will
yeah.
be private.
Yeah, so you have to submit the source code as part of the submission. It doesn't
Well,
have to
right,
be
but
GitHub
can
though.
they submit it
there
through a
are
private
other
repo?
there are other ways of hosting your code online. As long as the code is accessible to the competition judges, then yeah.
So, I've got a question for this question. What's the best way to handle responsive text size? Rona has an app that needs to look good on mobile all the way up to desktop. And my question, Rona, is why haven't you swung by the meeting we have to come say hi and ask this question? Because we haven't seen you. You don't call. You don't write. Simon's been worried sick about you.
So that's an interesting one. I mean, the thing is, you don't want to adjust the text scale factor because that's an accessibility feature. However, if you do want to adjust your text size across the app, you could cheat and use that feature. To be honest, I think it's more about just applying different themes. So based on your above the material app, you can do a layout builder. Wouldn't recommend that one per se, but there's or media query, work out what your breakpoints are and then choose a different base font size to apply to your theme. So that way your entire app changes with the breakpoints. I'm not sure I would find that useful. Text normally scales with the density of the screen so that you're assured that it's legible and always remains more or less the same physical size. This means that on a larger screen you have more information available to you to fill the screen rather than larger text taking up all the room. And it does look weird when it's the same thing when you take a phone app and put it on a tablet. It all just looks bigger, blown up, and it's like, well, that's not a great user experience. Well,
So,
that sounds like you're doing it right then.
now
Yeah.
I have a little dash in my ear over here. 1 second.
Yeah.
And Dash is telling me that Kelvin has another meeting to go to.
All right, yeah, I've got to hop off. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks everyone for participating in the challenge. It's super exciting. I can't wait to see what twists folks come up with and what kind of creative submissions do come through. And when you do actually beat so I encourage everyone to do the Dashitar puzzle when you beat it. Share your score essentially on Twitter and get your friends and family to try it out as well.
And I will say, join next week for more Flutter Puzzle Challenge stuff.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
We've got 3 more weeks going over this as things progress. And speaking of progressing, Kelvin, you had mentioned before something about the FAQ evolving and progressing.
Yeah, so we've received a lot of questions about puzzle hack specifics like, do I have to build a slide puzzle? Or maybe I'm in an excluded country, can I still submit a project? So expect a frequently asked questions update to be applied to the contest page, again, flutterhack.devpost.com, where we'll answer a lot of those questions that have been coming in quite a bit.
great. Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank you for coming. And
Awesome. Thank you, Kelvin.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks.
We have an interesting point, though. I think this might be applying toward auto solving.
Yeah, I was just picking out a solving. This is the thing, right? Like, it's a really complex problem. Any of that kind of solving.
Yeah. Big O,
And,
to
Craig
let you
will
folks
give
know
you
that
some
Big O is
recommendations.
how Big O is basically how efficient something is. It's a lot
Time
more
notation,
complicated
yeah.
than that. But anyway, the joke is that if you try and plug that into your computer, it's going to catch on fire. So let's see here. We have a continuation from last week from Alan. So we were discussing custom scroll view instead of single child scroll view and shrink wrap.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. Well,
You
okay.
were saying, yeah.
I'm not gonna. There's actually a great Craig who's in the chat. Did a
Yes.
great Flutter video, I think, on this. I think it was one of the decoding Flutter ones.
I'll tell you what, Craig, could you, well, if you can't post the link to Twitter.
He's scammering right now to try and find the link to the video, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
just shoot it to us in Slack there, Craig. Because I don't think it's going to let you post it to Twitter.
Do you know what? It's going to be really awkward when I find out it was one of the other guys. It wasn't him or something like that. I'm pretty sure. I'm just having a quick look around, but basically,
You don't think it was Felix, do you?
no. Oh, here we go. Shrink wrap versus slivers. Decoding Flutter. I found it. I'll put it in the chat for everyone. Sorry, Alan. There you go. I think that'd be honest. I mean, we could explain it on the stream, but honestly, the video does such a great job. Craig, awesome job. Hands in the air. Woo.
From the man who did that video and the link. So it's worth noting, if you only have a small number of children, shrink wrap's not going to be bad. But lots of children.
Yeah, I mean the thing here is like if your amount of children is going to cover the screen, then that's fine. But if you do it more than 1.5 screen height, well then they're not going to be recycled. They're not going to be constructed and reconstructed and saving memory that you want. So start going into hundreds and thousands. I mean you just made 100,000 widgets all at once with shrink wrap, because it has to basically create them all to get the height of the entire thing.
So basically you just killed your lazy loading. Let's see here. Okay, we have some spamming going on. Shantosh, you have put your question in 3 times, and I can see all 3 of them without scrolling. That's what we mean by please don't spam.
All right, let's
see here. Multiplayer online. We were kind of joking about that earlier. And the joking actually goes back to I don't know if you remember Jay. Jay, who did the Rocket app. And he's done a number of other things with us. He was doing the Rocket app. What was that for? 30 Days of Flutter?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
there's so many events.
So it's actually in this YouTube channel. You'll find the videos for 30 Days of Flutter.
Well, Jay, Nash, and I were all playing around one day with VS Code's sharing feature. And the reason that I kind of say this is a bit of a joke, Tech, is I would type something, and then Nash would type something over it, and then Jay would type something, and then I would delete what Jay was typing, and it just turned into this mess. So I can see people trying to solve this. They move a tile expecting that they're going to go 1, 2, and then person moves 1, the other person moves 1 down, or tiles going back and forth.
Or a race, like who is the first
Yeah.
one to solve like 2 puzzles, right? 2 puzzle
There
boards.
you go. Each person gets their own puzzle.
Yeah.
So let's see here.
And just to mention that there is plenty. Any Flutter question that you want to ask, grab that.
And yeah, I mean, you know, considering that the sample puzzle gave Simon that much of a hard time, I'm not sure if the kids versus adults thing is.
Well, you could do the simple challenge, not the animated one. Or there's no reason why
Well-
you couldn't like reduce it down to like 3 by 3 instead of 4 by 4, right? That's a huge difference in complexity.
I'll tell you, if we could get a volunteer from the chat, we need an adult to solve it, and then we can compare that to how Simon did it.
Oh, I'm no kid. Yeah.
Or you can add more blank tiles instead of just one. If
Oh,
that
I
helps.
don't know.
Yes.
With that-
Yes.
Oh, actual blank tiles.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
just
not
that
you.
edge.
The question. If we get stuck, can we ask in Slack? Absolutely.
Of course you can.
That's what it's there for. And what's that saying that you've got, Simon? If you are coding in one window and don't have the docs open in another, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's see. RE.
So that's
So many
that's
projects.
that's the Resident Evil 1 project.
Oh.
And do you know what? I'll share a little bit. Why not? We're here, and why not? See if I can get this to open up. So I've been there you go. So this is the main entrance hallway from the original Resident Evil 1 game. This is actually extracted from the original PlayStation 1 data. The original PlayStation 1 doesn't have 3D data because the backgrounds are actually 2D. And what you're actually seeing here, if I adjust things slightly, the yellow blocks are all the cameras. I literally made a little exporter for data. Now all I could do is cubes and cylinders. So that's what you got, and planes. I need to add cones in or something. But anyway, and then these are the light sources. So they have the positional information and the camera information, and then a 2D collision matrix, which is the rest of this from top down. And this is how the original game would know how to project the 3D characters on top of the 2D background. And that's basically the information that I'm going to be using to do the same thing in Flutter. So the eventual idea would be to walk around the entire Resident Evil 1 game in Flutter with the original characters, go from room to room, using the original data from the original disc. Well, just because. So yeah, there's I'll explain it all. I'm going to do a write-up. So I'll be doing a explanation write-up about how the original software works, how we're doing it in Flutter, and then that'll be probably going into the Flutter Vikings as my talk for Flutter Vikings. So yeah, I need to condense it down though, because it's a big beast. It's a big beast. Since we're here and we're sharing, I just explain how much of a deal this is, and see if I can load something else open. This is either going to go terribly well, terribly badly.
You know,
Go on,
while we're
carry on
waiting,
with questions.
continuing using a future builder with a shrink wrap. Circular animation displayed before the list is ready, or does it need the list to compute the height? It's going to need the list to compute the height, but that's an interesting question, because if you're using the future builder and you're waiting to, and you create your page when the snapshot has data, depending upon how much this height needs to be created, you may go from the circular progress indicator on connections not finished, and then snapshot has data, and you may try to render the page, but it take a little while for the layout builder to finish that up. So that could be interesting. Interesting little bug there. But yeah, I mean, if the data you get back is long enough that it's going to be a chore to compute the height, you probably want to use lazy loading at that point, I would think. Hey, Pedro. Is adding a scoreboard a good idea?
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. Adds performance problem. That's very much like, please help me with my bug. We have no idea what the problem is that you haven't described the problem. We can't see code. Really, the thing that you want to do with this is to take something like this over to the Google group, Flutter Dev Google group, not Flutter, not the Flutter Google group, sorry, the Flutter Dev Google group, and they'll be able to help you with that. There are a number of the team members who frequent that one.
Sure, you can raise an issue in the repo as well, and get it answered that way.
Well, but make sure it's an actual issue with the SDK first. Let's see here. We're talking about two people getting separate versions of the puzzle and try solving it in a competitive mode.
Yeah.
There you
Why
go.
not?
Bart, here you go.
Oh yeah, I have just seen that one. That is true.
Do you want to read it off, Scott?
I think what they mean is an extra blank. Adding an extra blank makes it very easy to switch between tile IJ to tile JI. But it will remove a lot of the fun from the puzzle.
Right.
Okay.
It's not really a question. Yeah, I guess it.
This one's a little interesting, where every package has its own strings. I mean, if you're going to try and that almost sounds like you want to do a.
I'm not sure what the question is here.
Yeah, we're not quite sure.
I mean, if you have multiple packages that make up your Flutter app, and you're trying to localize, well, then have a separate package that has all the localization for everything. That's one way of doing that. Or,
and when we say separate packages, it's like maybe you have one package for mobile and one for desktop and one for web.
I mean, have a package wherever you want. I mean, like, you can break up your app into multiple Dart packages, right? But yeah, just have one package for all your localization. That's one mechanism, one way of doing this, and it's like a mono repo, so it's all checked in at the same time. Another mechanism you could use. I mean, they all can get the current localization, right? So,
okay, feature packages, login, payment.
yeah. So as I said, just have one package for your localization. If you want to keep the localization to each individual module, so it doesn't depend on the external thing, then yeah, you're going to be adding localization to each module. But it doesn't mean you can't do that. So there's a widget called localization, which can override your provided localizations for any subtree of Flutter. That's how Material App does it. It just provides a localization widget.
Now this one, I understand part of it, maybe not the other. Maybe the second part says maybe connect the Android device directly instead of using the emulator. We actually do that all the time.
Hold on. What is the question? Is can one use Flutter with dual-threaded CPU? It works plenty fine with a dual-threaded CPU. So yes,
Right,
it
but
already
it's going
does
to
that.
run single-threaded though.
No, it doesn't. You have 4 threads. You have
What
4
is
or 5 threads, and it will spawn a few other threads. So the engine's built with the main Dart thread. That's the main Dart isolate. Then you have a rendering thread. There's
Well, but
there's a
these are
dispatch
isolates,
thread.
and the funny thing about isolates is you can't control which CPU they're spawned on. So sometimes
might
it ends up
actually
being
now.
multi-threaded.
The point here is
But-
yes, you can make multiple isolates and take full advantage if you want to, in the Dart side of things. But in general, it's going to use multiple threads. So like you're not going to get like a slowdown of your app because you've got a single thread or a dual thread CPU. It doesn't work that way.
Well, we want to be careful with that because people have always said since the beginning that Flutter was single-threaded using isolates, and then Philip came out with that one piece pointing out that yes, we spawn new isolates, but there's a very good chance they could end up on a different core, and you can't, you don't really have any ability to predict that as far as I know. So that kind of blew up the whole single-threaded and only using isolates discussion.
Yeah, but the point here is that Dart might be working on your Dart code might be running on a single thread, the main thread, right?
Right.
But the Flutter is taking full advantage of multiple threads. So like all the rendering and everything else is happening on different threads.
Ah, you're talking about the C++ layers.
Yeah, all of it, like that. Yeah, so
Okay.
you're taking advantage of the fact that you've got a multi-threaded CPU, right? And you're taking best advantage of the hardware. The point of having a single isolate with the with all the main code is more about the fact that it actually solves a lot of problems, right? And for most points, you don't actually need to have multiple threads. But if you do need to have multiple threads, like you're doing computationally heavy stuff per frame, then use an isolate. That's what it's there for, and you can do that. So it's not a problem at all.
If you don't target web, could you have a chance to win? I mean, it kind of features web. That's the
Yeah.
focus
I
that
think- I
they're
think-
looking for.
I think the idea is that you can host an example of it easily online.
Yeah. That should be like a link provided for the website, as far as I know.
Yeah. So I think you could what you could do is make your app, make your puzzle work on desktop and mobile, whatever it might be. Do something extra fancy there and show that off in your, explain that in your entrance. But it should still run on web. So you can actually inside your Dart app, you can use conditional imports. I think that's the name for them. Basically, where you can then say if it's running on web, use this one. If it's running on mobile, use that one, and you can turn off functionality of your app, things like that. There's various ways of doing that. There's also a global flag K is web. I'll put that in the comments here, and that is how you can detect if you're running on Flutter web or not.
Okay, and also real quick, the computer using is weak. Now this was throwing back to the can you use an actual Android device? In that case,
Yeah.
when people do have a weaker computer, trying to run the emulator at the same time is kind of hard on it. So yeah, just plug in your device.
The other side of this is
Developer
can,
mode.
I was gonna say you can compile for desktop, and then you're not even needing an emulator, so you can save a lot of your machine's power and still run it on your computer. So there's a way of
Simon?
turning on beta desktop.
Why don't you show off this pretty picture? And I gotta step out for a second. I will be back in just a moment.
Okay, keep the questions coming in if you want us to stick around. I was just going to show off this. So this is that same scene that we just saw. That was in 3D. This is the pre-rendered background that I've extracted from the original game. The original game, this is 320 by 240, so pretty low res. And if we look in, you can probably see some squares of gray and yellow. this is my decoder. I'm still working on the color space decoding. And there's also banding happening. So you can see here some of the banding that's happening on the colors. But the fact that I'm extracting this all within Dart, this is all done within Dart, is quite nice. It's quite cool. So these are some of the original camera shots. But yeah, there's definitely work to be done on cleaning up the color bleeds. You can see here on the carpet the color bleed between the two. This is because it uses a compression mechanism that's very similar to JPEG. It's not JPEG, nowhere near JPEG really, but yeah, it's all really been done. So these are some of this has all been extracted from the original game information, which is kind of cool.
So
but yeah,
you are basically extracting models from pictures like of the game, if I understood correctly.
So the game provides. So let's. I don't know if have you actually played the game?
Not really.
No, that's fine. So in this scene here, the player would be third person, like walking through. The camera's fixed, but the player moves around the scenes. The problem here is that this is an image. Now, the PlayStation didn't have enough CPU horsepower to render these nice backgrounds. You could still render them, but they would be very plain and basic, and you couldn't get like the detail that they wanted in the game, the realism to make it a action horror genre game. They actually invented the sort of genre of this kind of idea, and so it would plant different camera angles, and you'd have your character would move around this corridor, come around. So this is actually the other side of that corridor, and so when you leave this point here, it enters this point here.
Okay,
does that kind of make sense? But the point here is that this is a 2D image that's painted in the background, and the 3D model is painted on top. And when it reaches this edge, it actually gets obscured by the edge. There's a masking system happening. I won't bore you with the details right now, but it means that you actually feel like you're actually playing the game in this 3D environment, but actually it's fake, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a completely several games have done this. It's a 2D and 3D mix to achieve something that the platform couldn't produce at the time. Anyway, I've always found it when I was a kid playing it. I always found it quite intriguing that the mechanism they actually used to do that. So I've been experimenting, with the engine. But for example, give this little scene as an example. You walk around, and if the player moves up to this edge here, it can't walk over these picture frames that are in the. So there's actually they provide a collision boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based out of boxes and cylinders, essentially. So this edge would be a cylinder. There's probably a cylinder here and a cylinder here. So that as the player moves up, you do standard collision detection on AABB squares and circle collision detection to push the player out of those areas so they can't enter and overlap on the 2D background. Until you play the game, you probably can't comprehend what I'm talking about, but it's quite an interesting idea. And there's also like 3D objects in the game. You can see all these different camera angles that you'd have. Zombies would be in the corridors, and you had to like shoot them or push them off you, and all the rest of this kind of stuff. But there's puzzles, there's all sorts. It's kind of like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a more modern game that's this style. Anyway, so taking a step back. Well, I'll see if I can find. So I'm gonna. Yeah, I've got one here. I saw someone online has been doing an what we call an upscale project. So let's see if I can. I'm going to see if I can get this open. Let's reshare.
Okay. And for a moment here, we've got another of our very common questions. In fact, this is the second time this stream. SEO for web. Again, Mustafa, remember, don't use Flutter for a website. So that's the first thing. It should be used for web apps. The other thing is, what would you do if you were using JavaScript? Because Flutter does end up compiling to JavaScript for web. However you handle it that way, handle it the same way. So, and actually the SEO does take a look at the rendered text. And you also do want to make sure that you use your semantics text for accessibility, because it will look at that as well. That's a big part of it too. Let's see. Here's an interesting one, Simon. You might want to pause and actually read this. It's a shadows and performance question.
Go on.
Having simple box shadows on widgets quickly drops the frame rate when you scroll. They replace them with physical model shadows, but they don't always like the way it looks. Any thoughts?
The physical model shadow is elevation. There is a way of doing shadows other ways. I don't know. It's just on web. It depends on the platform. They've done pretty good at optimizing the shadow rendering. If you're using box shadows, I've not seen that. I mean, it might be a web thing, but yeah, no. And on the underlying system, the physical models are used for material elevation, and that's done uses a different rendering path, which has been heavily optimized for those particular use cases. So yeah, you're going to get a performance difference, but you shouldn't only drop frames or anything. I would say, why are you using that many? Are they overlapping? Like, something that you can actually do, which might be causing you a problem, is the reason why you're probably getting better performance with physical model is nothing to do with the shadows being rendered by physical model, but more about the fact that physical model is a layer. So the rendering system splits things up into layers, and it won't re-render what's on the layer unless it needs to. So the composition will just basically, the shadows will be composed together. They won't be re-rendered together. That makes repainted together. So what you can actually do is place a material widget with its type set to transparency. That's one way of getting a layer. Another one is use a repaint boundary. That will give you another layer separation. And these can help. And this is actually how scrolling widgets like list view work. They add a repaint boundary against each one of the elements, so that when you scroll, the elements are moved and they're not actually repainted as such. They're recomposited together. Not each cell is not repainted. So yeah, try adding a repaint boundary or some such. It depends on your layout. So that's best I could suggest.
Let's see here. Do we need to be good in math, G-physics to build a game? Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say good, but sometimes when things get really complicated, I have to take off my shoes and socks.
I think I'd say the answer to that question is no at the moment. You learn game math. There's very particular math and problems that are solved by games all the time, and they're commonplace across the entire game dev industry. So honestly, you could just search game dev followed by that one word, game dev. It's actually this gamedev.net. There's very popular forums and other things out there that literally are designed to solve these problems. They're like the Stack Overflow of the gaming world. So I'm sure you'll find the answers to all your problems. And once you start learning these patterns and the behaviors, they're in your head, and you're going to just reuse them as you go further, making more and more games.
Well, I mean, for each language, wouldn't there be a library of functions that?
No, not each language, but each like, let's say you're using Unity, then you're using Unity's engine, right? And Unity provides a bunch of functions and features to do it all for you. But there is a lot of the time you're trying to solve computational problems, like and things like you get used to the idea of, cross product, dot product, vector math, matrix math. These are all things that you are going to use in games. But yeah, it's something that you can learn. It's not but you only learn that thing. You're not learning all this other heavy math stuff. You learn the specifics for game dev.
See, in this way, your feet won't get cold. So, bouncing back to the shadows. Okay, a long list of cards. I'm assuming each one of those cards take you to another screen, and the problem is apparently in mobile.
Yeah, so I would honestly just recommend repaint boundary around each one. Yeah. I mean, you're going to look. So if your shadows are overlapping, then it depends on clipping. add some repaint boundaries and space them out and see how it go. Right. Well, I'll show off this whilst we wait for more questions to come in. So this was one of the original screen images that I posted online, and you can see it's quite pixelated and everything else. And there's a few people out there that are actually upscaling these, so you can put them for AI upscalers, and then this is what we get. It's quite hard to see the difference between the two, so I'm afraid I have to keep zooming in because it doesn't save the zoom position. But you can just see how pixelated that light is, or how pixelated this door is, and then if I switch over here, how smooth that is in comparison. It's got the full shape of the light and everything. So I'll probably be putting the game images I'm extracting for an upscaler of some sort, in the hopes that might provide some better enjoyment out of the original game, because the original game is quite bad. I want to show you these actually. This was my first image that I extracted. Look how nice that looks. The X is for debugging, but yeah, I mean, I got some patterns, and as you can see there, I knew that the image had a door in it over here, and I can see there's a green pattern of the door. So I slowly worked on my decompression engine, and then I'm getting closer and closer to the end result. These are different planes of color. You just way UV color space, and then we end up with this, which is, yay! It's still broken, and you finally work your way through all the bugs that you can to finally get the end result. So it's a journey. No one like people are under the impression a lot of the time that they see the final code and it just works. It's like, no code ever just works. No code just you don't just and it just works. It's
not even Simon's code just works.
It's complex stuff.
Yeah. Now the reason I popped that up there, Vinesh, the answer to your question is right there. So go ahead and check it out. That will tell you everything you need to know.
It's and there's a link further back in the chat for the sample code for that Bart here built for everyone to get them head start.
So start with a game. If you want to start with a game for Flutter, actually, there are some resources for that. Flame, I believe, if I remember correctly. Rive does some interesting stuff. In fact, Rive is going to be here in 3 weeks.
Yeah, there's actually some interesting packages out there.
Sorry.
There's Flame. Do we say
Take
Flare?
it from the guy from Microsoft.
There is actually some quite a few interesting sort of libraries, including Flame. So there's lots of options, including just use the widgets. Do it yourself. Depends on the type of game you're doing, right?
Here's an interesting discussion that we have quite often. Using container instead of padding or align, and what that comes down to is constants. I don't mean the woman, I mean const.
So the thing is, container, the way the constructor works, it can't be made constant at the moment. So you have a problem there, and that is, to use a container means you break a whole chain of consts. So you can't make a whole subtree of your project constant in itself. It's not too much of a performance difference, to be fair, but it is like one of those things of, if I just want to set the size of a widget, why am I using a container when a size box is what it is? Mm-hmm. So if you go look at the source code of a container, it actually says, if I specify the size, then use a constraint box or a size box or something. If you specify the background, use a box decorator. Mm-hmm. A decorated box, sorry.
And the box decoration.
With a box decoration.
And there's colored box. Also, if all you want is a colored, then you don't need to use a container, use a colored box.
So yeah, it's not until you're using multiple features of a container then use them together. But all it does under the hood is do exactly that, combine them together. So it's your choice.
So let's see. Looks like we're running out of questions. I do have a question for this guy. When are we going to have you back on the show to tell us more about Flutter on dual screens?
Yes.
So, and I'm sure you're writing so many new ones for dual screens.
Right.
That's John. John is the guy who started the whole thing as a side project, being able to do Flutter for the Microsoft Duo phone, which is a flip with the multi-screen. And interesting thing, Microsoft picked it up as an actual project, built an actual team, and at first didn't put John on it. But I understand he's finally on that now. And let's see here. Oh, yeah, this is for next week. I'm sure people are going to have lots of questions from problems they ran into during the week.
This week, download the sample code, get going, and we'll be back here next week to help you answer your questions about general Flutter questions and specifically around the puzzle channel, Flutter puzzle hack. Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we are pretty much wrapped up here. We have day jobs, but we do a screen utilities package for responsive design.
No, I don't recommend that one. There you go. You asked if I recommend it. I don't. I think if you remember, I think it's that package that screen utils. That's not loading for me.
There are some
screen_utils was the package. I think I looked at this before. Yeah, no, some 23 months ago. I don't know. This might be it. But no, I've seen a few of these. No, that's not it. Don't ask me what this package is then. Flutter screen util.
How far can you go and your code still works?
Might be a different package. I was just looking at. Sorry, go on. To be honest, I don't recommend anyone. Sorry. Just go back to that person. I don't recommend any one particular package. However, if it works for you, use it. Right? Like, there's no problem there. Just know that you're now relying on a third party for whatever it is. So normally you want to keep your third party packages simple. They should be they should have a purpose and well tested, and then you can be assured that that a third party is not going to break your app because they changed the code in their package.
So that is the one you looked at. So, okay.
I think that was, yeah.
So here's and this is interesting in a whole lot of different ways. Number one, you've got two guys in Flutter shirts and a guy who works at VGV, all on screen at the same time. And number two, it's an opinion-based question, kind of like which state management is the best. VGV's linter versus the Flutter.
They have different roles. Try it and then see which one you find is nice for you.
Yeah, there is a nice comparison document, I think, somewhere. I'm not sure where is the link for it, but it just shows what is the differences between different linters. Just whatever works for you, I guess.
Oh, I tell you what, I wonder if that was Mike Rydstrom. He was doing a bunch of comparisons of different packages and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we went there last week, John.
Right. Come on. Right. Thank you for joining us, everyone. And we'll call it an end there. So we want to see all your projects. So start puzzle hacking. And we'll see you next week.
All righty. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you. Thank you all.